In Palestine, the Ministry of Health reported over the last 24 hours, hospitals in Gaza received 50 fatalities and 184 injured as a result of Israeli ongoing bombings. Russian President Vladimir Putin highlighted the achievements reached 3 years after the reunification of Donbass and Novorossiya with Russia. And in Ecuador, students and social organizations call for mobilization as part of the protest against the increase in diesel prices. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. In Palestine, the Ministry of Health reported that over the last 24 hours, hospitals in Gaza have received 50 fatalities and 184 injured as a result of Israeli ongoing bombing. Through a press release, the health authorities stated that several victims remain under rubble and on the roads, while ambulance and civil protection teams are unable to reach them. The organization also explained that the number of fatalities from the Israeli attacks exceeds 66,000, while the number of injured stands over 163,300. For its part, a spokesperson for the European Commission called for the release of all Israeli prisoners, unrestricted access for humanitarian aid, and an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees said on Monday that approximately 500,000 Palestinians remain trapped in Gaza City in an area of no more than 8 square kilometers. Meanwhile, 70,000 Palestinians are crowded into each square kilometer in areas in the southern Gaza Strip to which Israel is threatening civilians to flee. UNRWA spokesperson Adnan Abu Hasna stated in a United Nations press release that famine has spread from Gaza City to the central and southern Gaza Strip. Abu Hasna called for an immediate ceasefire and for humanitarian aid to be allowed in. And Hamas assesses a ceasefire agreement in the Palestinian territories proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. The proposal was presented by Egypt and Qatar to Hamas, and it was emphasized that the movement's negotiators will approach it in a responsible manner. For its part, the White House announced that the plan was discussed with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said he has the support of the leaders of Arab and Islamic countries. In response to the proposal, Hamas negotiators said that their mediators will study the plan and submitted a response to it. And 15 children from Gaza arrived in Italy with their families to receive treatment in various hospitals across the European country. This medical evacuation was part of a diplomatic effort by the Italian government to provide medical care to Palestinian children who are prevented from accessing treatment by Israeli genocide. According to health authorities, the children, accompanied by 66 family members, will be treated for various illnesses, mainly respiratory and trauma. For his part, the Italian foreign minister provided details and figures on Gazan children being attended during this part as part of this program of medical evacuation.
Mercoledì dovrebbero arrivare 350 e 200 palestinesi.
Between today and Wednesday, we should see the arrival of between 150 and 200 Palestinians. They are children, family members of children who are already hospitalized, and students. So our work continues to try to bring as many people as possible to Italy from Gaza. We continue to increase the number of refugees we welcome. In Italy, we have more refugees than the entire European Union, and we are among the countries in the world, along with Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey, that have taken in the most refugees. We move forward in the hope.
In the United States, members of the Jewish community protested in front of the White House in rejection of the visit by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Protesters asserted that Netanyahu's Zionist policies violate the values of their faith. They also expressed that the constant attacks against Gaza and the Palestinian community represent a humanitarian crime that requires the prompt intervention of the international community. Demonstrators also demanded an arms embargo, the protection of civilians, and the promotion of peace in the region. These protests come as Trump and Netanyahu discuss a 21-point plan to end the conflict in Gaza, free prisoners, and dismantling Hamas military capabilities. We're now going live very quickly to Venezuela. The Executive Vice President, teleSUR Rodriguez, is offering statements. Let's listen.
Pero esa economía debe crecer de la mano de los pueblos de África y ese es el llamado que este tipo de eventos como la Semana de Energía de África debe
Energy
llamarnos
of
a la
Africa
reflexión y debe
must call
llamarnos
on
también a la
reflection,
acción conjunta.
and we must work for a joint
Al tener
action.
crecimiento
As we
económico,
have
se
economic
proyecta
growth,
que
as we are projecting
como
with
continente,
Africa
sus
as a
países van a
continent,
tener
its countries are going to have in the near future, in the decades of the 30s, 40s, 50s, well, we also have to see how to guarantee the energetic trilemma, to guarantee security, that we can truly carry out a transition with security. The planet knows that the goals that were set on carbon emission for the year 2050 are not going to be fulfilled because the investment have not been enough, the development for technologies to reach this also were not enough, and we are also calling for a transition that adapts to the trilemma of energy, for security and sustainability, and respect the rights of Mother Nature. Well, Africa is going to be the engine of the great motor of the future of energy demand, and Venezuela is the country with the largest oil reserves in the country. So I call to work together with one single strength, Africa and Venezuela, where organizations also work as a connection point so that energy proposals in favor of the development of our people sovereignly and to satisfy the necessities of the peoples of our nation.
Let's go together. Let's put our hearts together. Above all, the common history with Africa. That is where we are coming from. And Africa and Venezuela together will go to the future. Thank you very much.
Well, there we will listen to the statements of the Executive Vice President of Venezuela, teleSUR Rodriguez, addressing a summit of cooperation in terms of energy between Africa and Venezuela, and calling for the joint work to continue developing to meet the demands of the people and also to respect the rights of Mother Nature. Let's now take our first break, but remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin highlighted the achievements reached 3 years after the reunification of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics and the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions with Russia. The president highlighted the economic and social progress made in these territories. Putin announced the launch of a large-scale socio-economic development program for the growth of these provinces and recalled that citizens chose to bet on the future by joining Russia independently. The Russian president also committed to advancing the defense of his country's interests, memory, culture, and shared values. In Vietnam, the death toll from Typhoon Boaloi rose to 19, while another 21 people remain missing. Typhoon Boaloi made landfall on Monday in the central northern part of the country, bringing rain, strong winds, and storm surges. This was the storm with the greatest impact recorded this year. The rainfall, according to official records, 88 people were injured, more than 100,000 homes were affected, and around 10,000 hectares of crops were flooded. The Meteorological Agency forecasts continuing rainfall due to the passage of Walloy toward the capital, increasing the probability of thunderstorms. And U.S. weather authorities report that Storm Imelda and Hurricane Humberto are threatening the Bermuda Islands, the Bahamas, Cuba, and the southern United States with strong winds and flooding. According to forecasts, Hurricane Humberto is expected to produce dangerous waves for the east coast of the United States and the Bahamas, where Storm Imelda is also strengthening. The storm is expected to gradually turn before accelerating east-northeast through Tuesday night and early Wednesday, October 1st. Forecasters added that in the case of Humberto, it could change in intensity before weakening, but that until then it would remain a major and dangerous hurricane. Meanwhile, in Cuba, recovery efforts continue in response to the tropical storm that has affected several eastern provinces of the island. According to Cuban authorities, the provinces of Guantánamo, Santiago de Cuba, and Las Tunas report the greatest damage after the heavy rains. The island's emergency and disaster management services are carrying out prevention, rescue, and follow-up actions in the most vulnerable areas and making rounds to verify the impact of the rains that have been hitting the region since Friday 26. The authorities have focused on sheltering the population and protecting agricultural areas. In this regard, Cuban Prime Minister Manuel Marrero said the following on his social media. We are still in contact with the authorities in the provinces affected by heavy rains, especially Guantánamo and Santiago de Cuba, where we regret the death of 2 persons. We ask the people to stay informed and join in the recovery efforts as soon as possible. And in Valencia, Spain, a red alert was declared for risk of flooding due to the rains, and public activities and services were suspended, including schools. The Spanish Meteorological Agency has kept the red alert level in place for coastal areas of the Valencian community due to the risk of heavy rainfall. Town halls in the region ordered the closure of schools as a precautionary measure affecting more than 500,000 students. According to educational authorities, public spaces, including libraries, parks, and markets, have also been ordered to close. The alerts were issued to prevent incidents such as those that occurred by the Dana that hit Valencia in October 2024. And in Namibia, a wildfire in Etosha National Park devastated more than 30% of the protected area, causing the death of wild animals. Etosha National Park is one of Africa's largest nature reserves and home to 114 species of mammals, including endangered black rhinos. According to the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, some 775,163 hectares, equivalent to 34% of the park, have been devastated by the flames since September 22nd. To support the control efforts, the government has assigned 3 helicopters, a tanker truck, and more than 500 soldiers due to the still active fire outbreaks, and is evaluating the possibility of declaring a national state of emergency. In this scenario, the authorities are investigating to determine the causes of the fire, which has spread into areas near Angola. We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Ecuador, students and social organizations are calling for a mobilization on Tuesday as part of the protest against the increase in the price of diesel. Student unions of the Central University of Ecuador, supported by environmental groups, artists, and social movements, called for a mobilization in the Plaza Indoamerica in Quito. The call is in addition to the protest promoted by the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, whose mobilization has gained special strength in the province of Imbabura in recent days. Demonstrations in rejection of the executive decision to eliminate diesel subsidy have extended for 9 consecutive days, while those affected say they will continue in the streets until their demands are met. The United States is preparing for a possible federal government shutdown starting next Wednesday, October 1st, due to disagreements among members of Congress over the approval of funds. The budget process in the United States requires Congress to approve a series of 12 appropriations bills, which each year are key to keeping the various federal agencies operational. However, this year, none of the 12 bills have been enacted before the legal deadline, which threatens to partially or totally shut down the government. According to analysts, the lack of consensus before the start of the new fiscal year could leave thousands of public employees without pay and limit essential functions in the country. Let's go with our correspondent Jorge Gestoso for more details on the situation right now in the U.S.
Thank you. We are just less than 12 hours away a possible shutdown, and the probabilities looks very much higher. There is no signs of possible agreement between Democrats and senators at the Senate. There's only one hope. 5 p.m. there's going to be a new vote, and that eventually will be the last chance to try to see if they can overcome the differences and approve, at least transitionally, a budget that could let the federal government to function. There is definitely 2 million federal workers that could be affected. Half of them could stop to get their salaries starting by today. The other half, they're going to get their salaries when the furlough finish. But most definitely the issue here that are separating both sides, Democrats and Republicans, is the subsidies of healthcare, the Obamacare. The Democrats at the Senate want to keep them in their proposals. The Republicans want to remove it. The Democrats say that once they remove it, they will never get back to the budget of 2026. That's what's being discussed. So therefore, there is a lot of chances that in less than 12 hours we could be watching again another shutdown as it did before. We get back to you now.
In Morocco, hundreds of protesters have been detained during protests demanding better public services and an end to corruption. Demonstrations took place in the streets of Rabat, Casablanca, Tangier, Marrakech, and other cities where young people gathered to demand reforms to education, healthcare, and employment. Protesters, who identify themselves as the Gen Z 212 movement, have been dispersed by security forces. According to the Moroccan Association for Human Rights, there have been more than 60 detentions in Rabat alone, while the police report the arrest of about 200 people since Saturday in several areas of the country. The detonator of the demonstrations was the death of 8 pregnant women in a public hospital in Agadir. However, they are an expression of popular indignation at growing social inequalities. And on Tuesday, Chinese President Xi Jinping led the tribute paid by the representatives of the state, the party, and the Chinese people to the heroes on Martyrs' Day. The event was held in Tiananmen Square in the center of Beijing. The celebration was established in 2014 to commemorate those who contributed to the nation's independence and development. The ceremony began with a minute of silence in tribute to the sacrifices of the soldiers and civilians who gave their lives in defense of the country. In this sense, Chinese leaders recognized the great sacrifices and promoted the national spirit in the new generations, and also pointed out that China will continue to advance on the path of national revitalization. In Venezuela, the 13th International Percussion Festival of the National System of Youth and Children's Orchestras and Choirs took place, culminating in a celebration of the fusion of classical, contemporary, and Afro-Venezuelan percussive sounds. The Juan José Landaeta Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Pablo Castellanos, was the star of the event, accompanied by outstanding soloists such as José Alejandro Garcia, Naibeth Mora, and Chiquinquira Duran. Both performed notable pieces such as Suoso Peck's The Glory and the Grandeur, and Paul Creston's Concerto for Marimba and Orchestra OP21. In addition, the Herencia Group participated with its first orchestral concert, in which it presented Symphonic Puro, a work that reflects its cultural experiences. Now I have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.